Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Joseph's Fireside Chat series. Today is a very special episode. I'm joined today by one of my gurus, I would say, a guide for me in the world of general counsels, and in also just like how to stay sane in the world of legal and legal technology. Wendy Chow, who's general counsel at Cityblock Health. Wendy, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. You're setting some really high expectations for this part. And I
Uh,
like to stay sane. Yes, that's something I feel like I can speak to. So
definitely, and in New York City, no less, which it comes with its own challenges.
absolutely.
So Wendy, tell us about the path to becoming general counsel at Cityblock Health.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot to say about that, but I'll just give you some high level themes, right? And we can dive wherever you want to go. But yeah, I originally became a lawyer because I wanted to, other than make money, I wanted to, I wanted to have a skill that was of value to people. Like I wanted to have a skill that was useful and
Mm-hmm.
useful in helping people achieve their dreams, whatever those dreams were, right? And that was my original impetus for wanting to be a lawyer. And so that's what drove me. And then, I started my career at firms, some great firms, and then I made my way to in-house. And truthfully, firms have a very important place in our ecosystem, but I was not for them and they were not for me, personality-wise. And I'm glad that I figured that out early in my career, right? And I went in-house at a great organization called Visiting Nurse Service of New York. It's a big, large nonprofit, healthcare nonprofit in New York. And then from there, I made my way over to Cityblock 6.5 years ago to build the legal team. So that's sort of the shortest answer, but we can dive into whatever you want out of that.
Oh, I love that. No, I love that. And I think one thing you said there will come out through what we're going to talk about today, and that idea of learning law so you can help people, really help people, empower people. And I think for you as a general counsel, I think for most general counsels that we work with here at Joseph, because of what we do, but I think particularly for you, that idea of empowering the people that you're helping or working with really comes through in your work. So I think that's a beautiful thing to call out at the start.
Thank you.
Um, one of the my favorite conversations with you, and that has stuck with me since, is you said, I may be getting this slightly wrong, but you said something along the lines of, look, building tech for in-house teams is simple, right? Every general counsel, I think I'm putting on a Wendy voice. Anyway,
Please go ahead. Please do my question. Go for it.
every general counsel just has 4 problems, and they're the same problems no matter where you're working. Is that right? Am I remembering that right? And if so, tell us, what are the 4 problems?
You know what's funny? I was probably on some terror rant that you were listening to that day, and I don't remember what pithy four problems I
Oh, they
had.
were
But
beautiful.
but what I will say is, even if you were to ask me that question fresh today,
Hmm.
I do think that most general counsels, regardless side stage, whatever, have generally the same problems, right?
Hmm.
And whether it's 4 or 5 or whatever, you have generally the same problems. And I can speak to what I think those are, right? So especially today, you have to understand the macro and micro environments, political, economic,
Hmm.
inside your company and outside your company. Like, what
Hmm.
are the forces that are driving your business at any given time? What are the biggest threats? What are the biggest risks? What are the biggest opportunities? And that comes from within and without, right? You have to understand that. Then there's just the bread and butter, what people think about as the bread and butter legal work. You have to answer legal questions. Are we allowed to do X, right? And some of those questions, many of those questions, you will have already answered before, to maybe the exact same teams, or you've put them in writing and shared those already. So some of those questions are already answered and known and shared, but you have to answer them again. And
Hmm.
or obviously you will always be faced with questions of first impression all the time, right? That's sort of the bread and butter, what people think of as legal work, traditionally. And
Hmm.
then every GC is trying to manage the throughput of their team balanced against making sure that your team doesn't burn out, right? I don't. I'm sure there's some GCs out there, maybe at the very, very, very large tech companies, but I would say 99.9% of GCs, CLOs do not have the budget, tools, team that they wish that they, like, just numbers wise, that they wish that they had, right? Like everybody's working in a constrained environment, but you still have to manage throughput and you have to manage that against burnout, right? You have to be building your team culture and helping your team develop. And lastly, which is kind of an amalgamation of all of this, you have to make sure that your team is both delivering value and you have to demonstrate that they're delivering value. And actually, those two things are not the same, right? And you can't only have one, you have to have both. So I would say, I think in a nutshell, those are the things that every GC faces. It was probably pithier the first time I said it to you.
No, that's beautiful. It's similar to what I remember, but I feel like it's there's more to it. So politics, repetitive work, burnout, proving value, delivering value, and proving value,
and building team culture.
and building team culture. Great, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, for the audience who is experiencing those problems themselves, how do you stay ahead of those things? An easy question.
Yeah. Yes. Your whole philosophy in a nutshell. Yeah. So, there isn't obviously one straightforward answer,
Of course.
but I'll start with maybe the last thing that I said, right?
Mhm.
Is that I have an amazing deputy, Jed Dinnerstein, and he always talks about how you have to be, doing good work and also appearing that you do good work, which is just another version of the delivering value and also making sure that you're demonstrating that you're delivering value. So I think that is what sort of drives, and like, how do you deliver value? You have to make sure that you yourself as a GC, you're leading the way on this, and also that your team is trained to not just answer questions. You're trying to solve problems. In the course of solving problems, you are answering questions, but it cannot just be that transactional. Like, somebody asks you a question, you answer that exact question, yes or no. That is one version of practicing, but I don't think that you're delivering your highest value just by doing that, right? So what is the thing that they're trying to solve? You have to get inside of that and get to the biggest version of question of that you can, and then try to help them with that. I'm not saying you become just a yes machine. No lawyer is designed to do that. That is a bad version of doing your job. But you do have to make sure that they got what they needed, even if that's a no, but it's clarity and why it's a no, and they can design a different way, or they have to figure out a different path, and they understand that leaving the conversation. Right? So that's the delivering value part. Is, are you actually solving problems, and are you solving the best, most valuable problems that you can? And then how are you are you making sure that people understand that? Like, how are you demonstrating that you're doing that? Because I think that's sort of sometimes where GCs have a harder time. Like, I think they are delivering value, but then when it comes to demonstrating how they're delivering value, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think as lawyers, right, I see this so often. I see it more on the law firm side, but I also see it on the in-house side. Like, we're not taught to sell ourselves or our work, right? We're actually taught that that's below us.
Yes.
There's like rules you're not allowed to.
Worksheet speaks for itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, but what's funny is that the same skills that lawyers are using in their everyday work, which is persuasion, is the same skill that you need to demonstrate value. It's actually not different, So that same skill can be applied in this context too. It's just that you're solving a problem for yourself instead of for a client. And so you have to like turn that skill set inward, right? And also there's the very common trope, which I belong to, which is that lawyers hate math and they hate numbers. But unfortunately, a lot of demonstrating value, the business speaks in numbers. Finance absolutely speaks in numbers. That is their language. And you have to speak in their language in order to demonstrate value. You can't be afraid of using numbers to tell your story. And I think lawyers sometimes are reticent about that.
Yes, I think that's such a good point. DHL Supply Chain hosted 200 people in Columbus, Ohio a few weeks ago. Their legal ops team, which is headed up by, I think, the CLO, Mark Smolik. And he said there was a moment when he was presenting to the board. They was bored, right? Like the board was literally bored. When it came to
Thank
his
you for clarifying. I was
yeah,
like, wait,
yeah. Sorry, that's
yeah.
the Australian accent. Sometimes the rhotic R is helpful. They were bored because it was legal, right? It was like, oh yeah, he's just gonna do the things that legal needs to do. And then he remembers one day where he came in and he said, "Hey," and pointed around the room. He's like, "When you get this type of case, this is how much it costs you. When you get this type of case, this is how much it costs you." And for an organization that has such slim margins, they all sat up and they all thought, "Oh God, this is a thing that I need to address." And so I think that is a critical change. I'm also afraid of numbers. Just find someone around you who's good at numbers, and then they can do it for you. That's what I've done.
Yeah, yes. Which is my legal ops my legal head of legal ops, right? Yes, but yes.
Agreed. Deb, a superstar. So let's move on to tech. That's one thing that you and me nerd out over a lot. What you've rolled out tech projects before, and you've rolled out some very successfully, which is really cool. And not a lot of in-house legal teams can say that they've done, particularly when it comes to rolling out the tech, not just within legal, but across the business. Tell us, like, what did you get right? What did you get wrong? What are the lessons learned?
Yeah. This is a topic we could spend the entire time talking about, but what I will say is there's some, I think, things that have been talked about a lot by other people very well about change management and blah, blah, blah. I actually want to talk about a couple of non-obvious things that I think made the rollout successful, right?
Cool.
Which is a lot of times, I'm sure you experience this with your clients, but I hear all the time about GC saying they have a vision for some idea or some tech, but the team, they're just really struggling with adoption. Like, just not even because the tech is not designed well, just it's a mental state, right? I'm sure you hear that and see that every day.
Every day.
That starts at hiring. That does not start when you're convincing your team of a tool that you really like.
Wow.
That starts in your hiring.
Wow. Okay.
So, right? You're
Yeah.
not going to make it onto my team
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have an open mind.
Yeah.
Right? And we talk about that literally in the interview, about that this is forget about tech forward. It's just an operations forward team. And we're always thinking about process and efficiency and how to iterate and do our jobs better. And you're going to be given a garden plot that's yours to tend. And part of that stewardship is that you need to figure out the best way to do that job. And that can mean a lot of different things, right?
Wow.
And we literally talk about this during the interview. And I say, so if that is not appealing to you, this job will not be fun, right? And so then you've already weeded, screened for that, and also planted the seed that this is what the culture is going to be like. So when you come in the house, you already know, right? So that really helps with adoption because you've already screened for that quality, and you've already shown people this is what the culture is going to be like. So you need to, right? And then everybody on the team is already that way. So even if you are secretly a little reticent or whatever, or maybe not come as naturally to you, even if you want to, but you have peers that are demonstrating what that looks like, so you don't feel alone, right? And that is the dominant culture. So that's actually one thing that I think is sort of non-obvious.
I've never heard someone say that in response to that question. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it really helps, right?
Yeah.
It really helps. So that's the first thing. And then the other non-obvious thing I would say that it's very important that helps these rollouts go successfully, but sort of more foundational ground level, is that legal ops reports to me. It always has, it always will, and I hired a legal ops person first. I hired a legal ops person before I hired a lawyer, right?
Cool.
And there have been times in the org design where people have talked about, like, maybe legal ops reporting to somebody else. And I've been like, nope, because I want to demonstrate optically and in reality, you can see that this is like a theme of mine all the time, is that legal ops is not subservient to legal.
Cool.
Like, legal ops is not subservient to the lawyers. Legal ops is a peer to the lawyers. They are peers. And it's not the lawyers telling legal ops, how to do their job. It's the
Mm,
lawyer saying, I have these problems. We have to manage throughput this way. These are the how we have to work in our environment, and we need to work as efficiently as possible, the whole throughput versus burnout thing. And legal ops is solving that problem or figuring out the design, the chassis, whatever the world that we live in order for us to all have the same goals. But it's not
mhm,
lawyers telling legal ops. I actually don't think that works. It needs to be peers. And when you have that team be a peer set, they have more authority, autonomy, whatever, to pick the best tool, to design the rollout front to back, et cetera. And then all the other things that I think people talk about a lot, like change management, comms, et cetera,
mm,
that I think has been spoken about very well by people, smarter than me. But then I think the non-obvious things are those two things that I
mm.
think help make it successful.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I hear two things in there, right? Beyond the specific advice, which is incredibly helpful, and that is at different points in your relationship with your team, you're telling them how important this is to you
Yes.
and to the
Yes.
organization.
Yes.
And I just think planting those seeds, as you said, is so critically important. You can't just come in at the end and say, all right, new piece of tech, everyone use it. If you haven't planted any of those seeds,
Right.
of course it's going to fail. I think
Yes.
that's great. And then I think the second thing I heard was making sure that your legal ops team and your lawyers are meeting each other as equals, as professionals,
Yes.
is critically important.
Yes.
And I love that. It's actually advice I give to it's interesting. I've heard a lot of parallels with like advice I give to my customer success team here as well. You're not a customer support team. You're not there to just do what they say. You're there to meet them as an expert, having seen this technology deployed at tens, hundreds of other organizations. Tell them what you know.
Absolutely. And in our as we've had our
Usually.
implementation conversations, right? I've said multiple times, we may have an idea about something, but please tell us if that's a terrible idea, or please
Mm-hmm.
just tell us what the best practices are. Like, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're
Yeah.
coming with a lot of energy and thoughts and ideas, but I know that you guys have a sense of what works and what doesn't work, and just tell us what those are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to get to that particular project in a minute.
Yeah.
Before we do, another conversation we had, I think this time was over um, tempura, maybe?
Yeah. Please, Rose.
Was the idea of self-service.
Mm-hmm.
So building tools, digital tools, but they don't have to be digital. Building resources and tools that the business can use to self-serve
Yeah.
legal help.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are your thoughts? Where do you land on this? Some people are interested in it. Some people still hate it. I still get GCs saying, I would never let literally to quote, like a robot draft a document for me. Where are you? Where's the hype ahead of the reality?
Gosh. Yeah, I would say, gosh, there's so much to unpack in that. Let's unpack that.
Let's unpack.
I would say, let me start with the hype reality thing, right?
Cool.
Um, I would say that the reality is here that the tools are already changing our practice, whether you like it or not, right? And again, it is whether you like it or not, and we'll see how it evolves our practice in good and bad ways. But the reality is that it's here. It's just like every other technological revolution that has ever happened since the beginning of time. Horse buggy to car, like books to the internet,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to name all of them. You can say that you don't like the internet, but it's absolutely going to change our entire world. Same with smartphones, same with whatever, right? And so the longer you deny that the tools are here and changing, I think that is not a mindset that will help you evolve in ways that you need to, right? And so because the reality is that it's here. So that's the first thing. I think that is the reality.
What
Um,
can I jump
yeah,
in for 1 second?
yeah.
Not to turn this into a cross-examination, but I think
No, no,
that's such a
yeah.
critical point and something I've been thinking about a lot. When you said that you need to, what do you mean by that?
Well, say again what.
So you said that will not help you um, in ways that you need to help yourself.
Oh,
Like,
yes. Yeah, well, going back to the metaphors, this is literally, I've been saying this to my team, right?
yeah.
imagine you're a horse and buggy driver and the car comes online. Like a car is invented.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to cling harder to our horse and buggy reins and be like, no, I need to double down on all my clients that I take on horse and buggy? Or am I going to say, oh my gosh, the car has been developed and I need
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to drive a car as soon as possible? Like, which one are you going to be? Right. And it will mean that you have to let go of your horse and buggy work, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And not everyone is going to make that transition. Like, it is
Yes.
a reality and it is the truth that in every technological revolution, jobs are displaced and new jobs are created, every single one. And AI is not different than that. I just think it's happening on a bigger magnitude, but
Agree.
the principles are the same. And so you will, to just be very blunt, I think that people that are not curious and embracing the reality of the technology are going to find their islands shrinking, right? Are going to find that the technology is forced upon them rather than them being a proactive agent and interacting with it on their terms with curiosity, etc.
Agree. And I just wanted to double down on that moment because I think it's so important. I don't think people are saying it enough. The
Yeah.
people who I see who are the most afraid of the technology are the people who are spending the least time with it. And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is. And I get the fear. I
Yeah,
understand
same.
I understand the fear, right?
Yeah,
And I understand, and to go to the second part of your question about what's the hype, the
yes, yeah,
technology is not everything that everyone is saying that it's not just like
yeah.
there it can, like, you can fire half your staff and AI is just going to do our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's never the reality, but it's definitely not the reality today. Like, I would say the hype is this idea that one for one, there are tools today that can 100% replace lawyers and legal judgment, and that I feel like I have a good canvas of all the tools, and that's not the reality. The reality is that they can speed up your work quite a bit in really wonderful and incredible ways, and also that those answers, whether it's a one-to-one question or you're training a tool, those answers still have to be vetted,
Mm-hmm.
and have
Mm-hmm.
to be checked,
Yep.
Um, and so, like, being able to release the tools to answer legal questions without checking, either proactively or reactively in the moment on a one-to-one question the tools are not ready for that. They're not there.
Yep.
They don't have that level of fidelity.
Cool. I agree fully. Human in the loop is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Human in the loop, but less than that. That's too specific. Control, right?
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
lawyer, the legal team still needs to be in the driver's seat. They still need to be able to validate. And that's a big part of what we built into the Josef platform. You can still move fast. That doesn't mean move at a glacial pace, but make sure there is a validation or trust layer in there. Yeah, otherwise I do think some people are in for a world of pain shortly. Yeah,
To interrupt for a second, I think
please.
that's maybe what lawyers that are reticent to use to interface with this technology don't understand
Mhm.
is that there's still, look, I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but as of today, it's no different than like somebody drafting the work, like a junior person drafting the work for you. You still need to
Mhm.
double check that work, right? And then a chatbot is sort of an interesting thing. That is more of a shift and a change. But you're still feeding the ants. You're still feeding your written policies, your written SOPs, your guidance that you developed, your team developed into the thing, and then you're validating it on the front end before I'm ever going to release it to self-service. Like, it's going to be vetted to death before it gets there. And that
Mhm.
control, I would be really scared to use it if my tools weren't giving me citations or the tools weren't referencing the source documents,
Yep.
or we didn't get a chance to vet it and train it before it went out for even things like tone, etc. I would be really nervous. But all the tools that I'm using today have those functions. And so I I'm not as scared because there's the control element is still there,
Absolutely. And I think that's critical and particularly critical for our audience of lawyers, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting to go down this rabbit hole is when I see people who are really afraid of the technology, they think it's going to take their jobs and that it can do exactly what you just described, right? It can do end-to-end workflows. It doesn't need any supervision. It doesn't need any training. It's just going to step in and take their jobs. And that same cohort, when they first see the technology and realize it's not perfect out of the box and it's not as clever as them, say, uh-huh. And then they go back to their old ways of working. It's like, it's this funny, like, moving between the two poles. Yeah.
What's funny is that, like, again, that is the most human element, being afraid. Your job is your access to your food, water, shelter. That is the
Mhm.
most human,
Yes.
reaction. But what's funny is that I'm afraid of the same thing. I just have a different way of reacting to it, right? So
Yes.
I'm also afraid that it's going to take my job. But the more I interact with it, the more that I am proactive about learning the tools, I at least can have some agency in this wave that's coming, right? Am I
Mhm.
going to ride the wave? Because in every technological revolution, there have been winners and losers. There have been people that, like, oh shoot, I saw the car coming. I'm gonna be the first one that drives the car or whatever, you know? And and
Mm.
with the displacement, there's also opportunity, but you have to see that coming and be willing to interface with it, right? To just give yourself a chance at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to go down that rabbit hole so much, but I'm conscious of your time, your
I
precious time.
know. We can talk
All
about
right.
that.
Well, let's take this out of the clouds and come to like a specific project. So the
Yeah.
chatbot. You and me have been talking about this for a while. We've just
Yep.
kicked off.
Yep.
Tell me, what's your vision? What are your dreams for the chatbot at Cityblock Health?
Yeah. So what's funny is that I heard about the chatbot from another incredible lawyer. This is before ChatGPT came on the scene, right?
Mhm.
Andy Cook at Travel Perk.
Ah,
Hope it's okay that I'm mentioning you,
ah.
Andy. He's the CLO there. They built their own chatbot years ago, like prior to the, and he told me about that, and I was like, this is revelatory at the time, right? But I remember thinking, I don't have the resources or even know how to. I know that that's amazing, but I'm gonna have to wait for a product to arrive that's pretty out of the box. And now we're here with Joseph, right? So anyways, but going back to the whole self-service thing, look, and the AI thing, and then bringing it into this conversation is, I have no idea how AI at the ends of, or years down the road, how it's going to change the legal profession in ways that we can't even dream today, I'm sure. But what's knowable today is that it's starting to democratize information, right? So
Mhm.
there's the art and science of what lawyers do. The science is, what does the contract say? What does the law say? Right? And the art is, and what should we do with that? Right? Like, and how do we make business decisions based on those things? And I think that AI is, and things like the chatbot are democratizing access to the science part, right? Lawyers used to spend a lot of time trying to figure out, what does the contract say, what does the law say, and that time is compressing and condensing through the technology, right? And um, so I think that the great thing about the chatbot is that it's just furthering the democratization of the access of that kind of information, right? What does our policy say on X? Like, the simple, going back to one of our other questions, like the things that GCs have to deal with is the questions that you have already answered, the things that live in policies that you have written that you don't want to answer again, because that is not the best use of your time. But you need to make sure that people have those answers, right? It may be that you trained a team and the team is turned over, or it may be that your company has greatly expanded and people need those answers. But your team spending time answering questions that have already been answered is not the best use of their time, most likely. So how can I take that work off the plate so that we can focus on more higher value things, but still make sure that the company gets those answers because they still need them? That is where the chatbot is interesting, right?
Beautiful. What's that value to the legal team? That makes so much sense, right? Take that busy work off your plate, allow you to focus on the complex matters. And as you said earlier, in today's environment, those complex matters are becoming more and more complex, and we need to spend more time thinking about them.
Yeah.
What's the value to the business of a chatbot?
Speed.
Mm.
It's speed. It's that you don't have to wait for me to get back to my computer to find this document and then be pause because I'm annoyed that I have to answer this question and then give it to you, right? You don't have to wait for me to
Pause, doubt,
switch.
then answer.
Yes. Pause, make an internal face, find the policy, right? Um, like, I keep joking that one of the measures of Josef will be if anyone on my team has to keep answering what is the EIN for one of our entities. We built a beautiful document. We've already been doing self-service, right? We've built these beautiful documents to give to people. Policies are self-service, right? I wrote a thing, right? I've never had that thought before, but policies are literally self-service. That's
Neither.
what they are.
Yeah.
I wrote a thing. I wrote you my answer. Go look at the answer that I already wrote, but policies have their flaws, of course. And so it's just getting the team's answers faster and that they have confidence in. Like, my team I keep joking about this EIN thing because it's such a metaphor. Like, so we've written these beautiful documents. A business person copying the EIN out of a document is not different than me doing it. We've made it really user-friendly. If you're doing this, use this entity, and here's the EIN. But they want legal to be the one to give them that answer so that they feel like they're just 100% sure that they're not messing this thing up. And so that's where the chatbot can really help, right? It's like, you still get that it's coming from legal, but we didn't have to spend any of our time doing it at scale, right?
That is such a brilliant insight. Like, policies are self-serve already. No one trusts, like that people can use them, and it would be quicker for them to go to that document and get the EIN. But what they actually want, the service you're actually providing them, is a little pat on the shoulder saying, "Yeah, that's right. Off you go."
It's coming from we're validating them, right?
Great.
It's the human part. It's the intervention part that's like, no. In real time, I give you this answer. Which, look, I'm delighted that people trust the legal team enough to want to come to us. I think that's a good problem to have, but a problem, So I both want them to get that confidence because them double triple checking the number or whatever, or them feeling like they're not interpreting the policy perfectly correctly, or them making a mistake on the EIN is also just more wasted time for all of us, for the business and us, right? So I don't want to discourage that. I don't want to discourage that inclination. I just want to solve it in a different way.
Cool. Great. And look, I mean, I think that trust is one of the legal team's great moats, right? To borrow a phrase from the world of SaaS, that is part of the value prop.
Yeah.
Can I just dig into one other thing that you mentioned before? I know we're coming up on time, but I think this is really critical for people. Andy Cook, weirdly, great friend of Josef, and was one of the first users of Josef in in-house teams. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that doesn't surprise me at all. That doesn't.
Yeah, we're like one of our biggest advocates. That's so funny. You mentioned that he had gone and built some of the chatbot on his own, and you didn't have time for that, and you were waiting for the technology to catch up. I think this is key, and actually something that we spoke about this year as we were preparing for the chatbot project. Talk to me about speed of building, speed of getting ready. Why does that matter to you, and what have you seen in the market?
Yeah, so earlier when you were asking me about every question nests into other questions, right? But earlier when you were asking me about why have our rollouts gone well, there's a lot of components to that, but one of them is that I'm really, really, really picky about the tools that we adopt. They need to be beautiful, they need to be easy to use, and the implementation time needs to not be that much. It needs to be pretty out of the box. Not to say that there's no customization or no building, but we just don't have the time or energy or technological expertise or whatever to spend a lot of time configuring a tool on our own. And so I won't choose a tool until it's at that level, and so that's why I think now the technology and your company, et cetera, has gotten to a point where you load a solid policy and a policy that's very clean and easy to understand, right? But that out of the gate, the answers that you're getting from the bot, even untrained, are pretty good. So the training, it's not that there's no training necessary, but that baseline, it's pretty great. Yeah.
Great, good. And well, I mean, I'm going to be a co-founder for a second, and you chose Josef for your chatbot project, so I assume we can apply those learnings to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to see how quickly we can stand this tool up at Cityblock. But I think that is a big part of building technology for the space that you're working in, because AI can lead you down many paths, but if you build that infrastructure and the guardrails, you can get stuff ready really quickly if you're solving one or two problems.
Yeah.
We're almost at time. One of the other topics, this is my last question. One of the other topics that we talk about all the time is health and wellness. And
Yeah, we do talk
you're a
about it.
bit of a guru for me on this. I live by a few things you've taught me. As a final thought for our audience, what's one bit of advice you have on how to stay sane as a GC or someone working in this industry?
Yeah, each one of these topics could be their own,
Okay.
but yeah, I would say that it is natural to feel like you should sacrifice your health for work. I actually think that's very natural. Again, going back to the food, water, shelter, like your work is your access to your food, water, shelter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is natural to want to put it first, and to and things like drinking enough water in the day, getting a walk in, exercising, eating well, sleep, whatever. There is, at least as Americans, like there is a culture of, historically, I think it's starting to change, but of sacrificing those things for work, and that is revered, right? But what's funny is that it is absolutely a short-term play. If you want to count the total number of hours in your life that you are productive and that you are working at your best, health is actually, focusing on your mental and physical health is actually the play to maximizing that overall amount of time, because your health won't be ignored, mental or physical. And if you don't take care of it, it will be wildly disruptive. And actually, like, your goal of wanting to be this like very very productive worker, leader, whatever it is, will absolutely be disrupted. And there will be a time where it comes to a breaking point and you'll be forced to take a break. And that actually net will be much more disruptive hours wise than if you had just made sure that you paid attention to it all along. I don't think that I'm like, the goals are the same. You want to be a productive person. I'm not telling you not to put work first or whatever, but it's a short-term play to sacrifice your health for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And one really tactical thing is that I think everybody should start meditating.
I mean, that's one of the things that I now do every day, thanks to your advice.
Yeah. Has it changed your life?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Like the way that, as like a practice or a ritual before I start every day, I do yoga and then I do that. I wake up, sometimes when you wake up and you're like, your mind's racing a million miles an hour and you wake up from anxiety and you check your phone, and then I go in and things are problems. I'll have like problems I have to fix. Yoga, meditate, sit down. They're not problems anymore. They're just tasks.
Totally. It's
extraordinary.
Power center. People think about meditation that way, and that's
Yeah.
not why I started meditating, but it is wildly powerful for work, right? Where you just see a thing and you're not just reactive. It's not just your lizard brain that comes online first. I have so much
It's
more.
not your what brain?
Your lizard brain, like
Lizard. I heard loser brain. I was like, okay.
No. Lizard
Lizard brain. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, like if I've been meditating and I'm in my power center, I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. That thing happened. And I'm I have so much more time back, and B, I'm so much more creative in my solutions or how I should approach whatever it is, because I'm not just in reactivity mode. It's wild for power. But that's not like why I started meditating, but I think that's something that's not discussed.
Yeah, well, and I think for people who are not drawn to it, right, that's probably a really powerful message that doesn't get out there a lot.
Right. Yeah.
We're at time.
Oh, this is so fun, Sam. We could talk forever.
This is so fun. We should do a follow-up. The crowds will be clamoring for it, no doubt.
Absolutely. For you and I to talk about legal tech, it'll be
literally. But no, let's catch up in a few months on the Chatbot project and like give people an update. I think that's a great way, like building in public. Let's build in public and actually share what works, what doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. I think talking to the audience in that real way is critical, and what you and me do best.
Love that. Thanks for having me, Sam.